But if when you receive it, it's easily breaking into pieces like this, it's definitely too dry. So what you want to do before you take it to the class is at home, you're going to need to do a little bit of preparation. You're going to want to, first of all, take it out of the bags. Second of all, if it's a few days prior to your class, you can get like a Tupperware, put a little bit of the dirt in it that I provide to you, and lay the moss, just flat on top of the dirt in the Tupperware. However, if it's right before your class, um, and you only need to take care of it right before the class because it just got dry at that point and had been moist up until then, what you can do is just set yourself up with a little towel and get yourself a little bowl of filtered water, and you can completely submerge this moss because it's not, able to absorb it from wet dirt underneath it anymore. So moss is it's pretty sponge-like, it's resilient. If you do let it dry out, completely almost even like to where it's brown, it's the case that, 8 times out of 10, I can bring it back to life. It takes a little bit of extra love and care, but it's pretty resilient. So these should be easy for people to take care of at home, and I want you to make people feel like it's easy and this is not a big deal at all, and you don't have to have much of a green thumb. Moss grows on the sides of trees, houses, wherever it can you know, get going. So when we put it inside of this little sustainable ecosystem, basically, aka your terrarium, then it's going to thrive in there if given just a little bit of love. So now that I have saturated this, I'm going to take it out and I'm going to set it on my cloth. Okay, so if I was going to a class in a few hours, I would probably just let this sit out like this for just a little bit, probably just long enough to get up and grab a couple plastic bags, go ahead and put them in the plastic bags, and then transfer them to the class immediately like this. Now, being that my moss is now really wet like this, it's not going to fall apart and crumble. It stays saturated together. So when you get to the class, there is an image attached that comes along with this video that you can see what the setup is expected to look like, and you're expected to follow those guidelines, and you receive your minty colored burlap that you lay across the table in the center, and then everything else, all of the supplies should be kind of runner style down the center with the moss and the mushrooms and the string and the feathers, maybe the string at one area. You can just look at the picture and go from there. So in any case, I've got my moss and my class is all set up, and let's pretend like I'm just, a student right now, and these are my glow mushrooms that I've picked out, which, by the way, please make sure that y'all are explaining to people when there's a variety of mushrooms to choose from, which there will be, colors-wise, that the white ones are the ones that glow in the dark, and they charge extremely easily. And if y'all aren't having them charge them in class and test them out, you're missing out on like a huge part of the fun. I sell my glass at the artist markets downtown here in Asheville, and if I did not have glow-in-the-dark mushrooms, I would not make half of the sales that I do. They're a game changer, so make a big deal out of them. Now these have just been collecting light, from the room, and I can see them glowing in my hand right now, and if they're not in a glowing state, you can have a little flashlight on hand at the class, and you can charge them up for people really quick, shine a flashlight on them for just a few seconds, have them test them. They'll see that they're glowing either in a bright aqua blue or a bright green. So, moving on to how to put together the terrarium. I'm going to bring my little towel back here just to to control the dirt. So y'all will receive your dirt in some kind of organic glass container of some sort. Reduce, reuse, recycle. Which, by the way, please always mention in your classes that Artsy is the only eco-friendly option for the painting classes. Obviously, these are eco-friendly. There's no waste from these. But you can mention people that are in the terrarium classes giving one of our painting classes a try, being that if you consider competition and other ones that are going on, 40 plus people in every event, paper plates and paper towels for every person, nationwide and even worldwide, all the time. It's a copious amount of waste. So please make sure you mention that. Now, in the class, you can have either a teaspoon or just a regular little spoon from home, like a measuring spoon, whatever you'd like to use. But sometimes I just use my fingers, and sometimes I like to use a spoon. If people aren't afraid of getting dirty, then you can go ahead and just have them, use their fingers, and basically you just grab a little bit of dirt and you drop it in there. Now, you're going to be getting a little bit of dirt on the outside here, and that's okay. See, I didn't even find the spoon to be as easy as the fingers. So, and don't let them be worried about getting dirt on that burlap, because it's your job then to wrap that all up tightly at the end of class. Then when you get home, give it a good shake out outside to clean it up. So for the most part, this moss is usually pretty dense, so you don't want to put any more dirt in the bottom than that. It's about an inch, 1 inch worth of dirt. So now we've got all this mess here, and what you can do is with one of your rags, you just instruct people to just wipe off the outside real quick, and then you take an inside corner and you just clean out that little bit of extra dirt from the inside walls there. Keep it nice and clean as you're working with it. And you want to be instructing people all along throughout this entire process, because they don't know, how to put these together. So now that that's done, I put this out of the way. We're going to be then ready to transport our moss into the terrariums. Now, it is key here that you explain to them thoroughly and help them along with this process. The holes for the terrariums, this is a terrarium that would be for a class. The holes, however, that I make for the terrariums that I sell are about half this size. So it's much more difficult for me to get everything in. But don't let people be fooled, or don't be fooled yourself about just a regular, basically succulent planter or moss planter versus a terrarium. A terrarium is technically, an enclosed space, or enclosed enough that it can have its own ecosystem happening. And with these terrariums, there is absolutely, every day inside of them, supposed to be condensation happening. And that's all, again, pending on you watering it correctly and it having the correct atmosphere around it, or sunlight, I guess. So when it comes down to putting the moss together, and you want people to be touching it and connecting to it and seeing what they like best, some are more little star shapes, some are, real kind of palmy or ferny, fern-like. So if you do have little pieces, those are good too. So basically what you want to do is you want to start with your bigger pieces and then move forward with these smaller pieces towards the end. So first things first, you're going to instruct, and at this point we should have nice, juicy moss. So basically, when you squeeze it this way and you squeeze it this way, you can get it to jimmy through the hole pretty easily. So first I'm going to give it a squeeze from the sides, so dirt's on the bottom, moss on top, fingers on the sides, so that I can create a long shape. And I am just going to start to feed that into this hole. And then once it's in there and it's setting inside of the terrarium, you want to immediately have everyone grab their tweezers, and they're going to take that and you're going to push that back as far as you can against the back wall. And it can even kind of slightly move upwards on the wall. And then you want to take your tweezers and you want to press that down. You really want to give it a good press in there. It's been the case that I've seen in some of the class pictures, where they seem a little bit loose and pieces are just floating around in there. Those will not survive. Those will end up drying up and dying. So you want to make sure that you send people home with something that's going to be true to what we said it is going to be. So then you can move to your next portion. Now this is a large piece. This is pretty big for this little hole. That's okay, I'm not scared. So I'm just going to start by squeezing the very tip of it to fish in that little tip. And as I move upwards, I'm squeezing it from the top and the bottom where it needs to be and feeling if it's thicker. And then I got it in one nice big piece, and I can just use my finger for that one. And that pretty much covered up the whole entire rest of the back area. And now I will just have this little front space here to fill with these smaller ones. So what I'll do then is I'll go in and I will grab my other moss, and let's say that I don't need more than just one more shove of moss in there. Actually, just kidding, that filled it pretty good, but I kind of still have one more little open hole in here. I'm going to go in, I'm going to give this one a good press, this one as well, adjust them back a little bit, take my smallest piece of moss, because I have a very small little triangle space in there that I need to fill. I'm going to put that in there, use my finger to press that down. Now, I have the entirety of the bottom of that moss, or the bottom of the terrarium filled with moss, and you want people to, sorry about that, you want people to pay attention to the aesthetics of it, in that, you can have them periodically look into the hole and kind of take on the world from what it is on the inside and there. Having some things moving more upwards on the side of the wall creates more of like a rolling hill effect. So then the last step would be the glow mushrooms, or just whatever mushroom color they choose. And this is really easy. You just want to pop those in there. Just shove it in the hole, one at a time. Go in with your tweezers, grab it from right underneath the cap, choose where you want to set it, and stick it straight down in. So you just take it, pop it in, and you do want to be delicate with these for the most part. They're pretty strong, but if people are dropping them all over the place like crazy, they're going to get some breakage. And so then I have my two cute little glowing mushrooms in there. And then don't let anybody not realize when they have a bail hole on the bottom here, because that's what we supply all the feathers for, and the quartz crystals.